Did anyone else see the object at this time?
Yes, I was watching it come on out of the east horizon. And the only thing I felt was when the skipper took over the controls and we started to auto-rotate down, and I'd never been involved in a mid-air collision, so I was just watching this thing come at us.
It was at this time a light swung 90 degrees from the UFO towards the helicopter, and it came in through the front of the plexiglass, and the entire cabin inside turned green from the light. It was a pyramid-shaped type light that beamed down and came through the front of the helicopter.
How long was your aircraft bathed in this beam?
The light that came into the cockpit apparently lasted only for a few seconds, but it was enough time that I observed the red instrument panel lights utilized for night flying to be absorbed by the green light.
Was it possible for you to determine the outline of this object against the star background?
Yes, sir. It was a cigar-shaped object, like a symmetrical airfoil with the dome on it. It was a solid object. It was a metallic structure to it. And you could see lights reflecting off the structure, and you could not see any of the stars or behind the object itself.
Well, while all this was going on, what was the attitude of the helicopter?
Apparently, when we were supposed to be descending at 2,000 feet a minute at 100 knots, we were climbing at 1,000 feet a minute with the controls still established for a descent. And we went from 1,700 feet up to 3,500 feet and topped out at 3,800 feet. I would like to stress one important fact, and that is there is approximately 20 years of Army aviation experience between the 4 men on board the helicopter that night. We have been trained to follow procedures and regulations in reporting incidences, regardless of how they're accepted. And we tried to follow those procedures. And we reported the incident as it occurred and have avoided any speculation on the subject.
While our government's official position is not to speculate on this subject, we can choose to let our minds explore other possibilities, to use our imaginations. For if we consider that astroscientists agree on one point, that the possibility of life elsewhere is not only quite probable, some feel it is there without a doubt. Let us suppose then that these objects are real space vehicles, extraterrestrial in origin, and not an illusion of the mind. Perhaps we can begin to accept such ideas as various reported UFO shapes and configurations by looking at our own aviation history. We have, in 71 years, devised dozens of aircraft shapes, from propeller-driven biplanes to lunar modules to date. And by projecting into the future, it's conceivable that our technology may lead us to similar developments. As to the UFO's behavior, if they are space vehicles, they appear to have movement in advance of our understanding of what is possible in the 20th century. But we must realize, however, it stretches our imagination. There will be a 21st and 22nd and 23rd century, where the impossibilities of today may be tomorrow's commonplace. If these vehicles are of origins outside our Earth, then we must assume they are managed, controlled, and operated by some sort of beings, perhaps similar to us. From sketchy reports around the world, we can begin to construct a hazy portrait of these aliens. Reports indicate ashen, pale, white skin, perhaps with a thin protective membrane over them. Eyes large, far apart, with a wraparound appearance. Nose indefinite, 2 small breathing holes. A slit mouth, or small or no opening at all. Behavior, cautious, curious, firm. Ability to paralyze on touch. Sounds emitted. Humming. Oohs in a foreign language or some accent. Buzzing as if electronic from their head and chest. Wearing head protection or overall body protection.
We just might not be scientific and technically sophisticated to the extent that's necessary in order to recognize what is the real evidence in this, in what we have collected.
I think we should also think of other possible hypotheses. Suppose there are such things as interlocking universes, where forms of matter which don't mesh with ours except under strange conditions.
To assume that we are on the level of intelligence that would of necessity be visiting us, if they have the ability to come here, there may be no common bridge of understanding. There may be attempts at communication and we don't recognize it as communication.
We must always be aware of the fact that we may be testing the wrong hypothesis. As for instance, in the days when people talked about stones falling from heaven, that was testing the wrong hypothesis. Meteorites do exist, the phenomenon exists, but they're not stones that fall from heaven. They're stones that the Earth collides with when they're in orbit around the sun. It's arrogant, egocentric, egotistical for us to think that we are the highest intelligences in the universe. I think that's completely preposterous.
As far as the extraterrestrial intelligence is concerned, I believe it's out there.
We have not been able to come up with a logical explanation. At least our scientists have not. The only plausible explanation that would explain all of these sightings is the theory that these could be intelligently controlled vehicles controlled by an alien species, alien to this planet.
How would the public react if this event were true? To find the answer, Dr. Leon Festinger of the New School for Social Research consulted a number of prominent social psychologists from several universities across the United States.
You must realize that social scientists can only make educated guesses about reactions to such a new and startling event. But nevertheless, certain behavior can be predicted. Dr. Aronson of the University of Texas points out that many people already have strong beliefs about the existence or non-existence of extraterrestrial beings and are committed to these beliefs. Dr. Walster tells us that if these extraterrestrial beings were advanced beyond us, we would probably gain technological information from them, that many Americans may worry that their benefactor will demand something in return, constant gratitude or acknowledgement of their superiority. As far as panic is concerned, most of my associates agree that it wouldn't happen unless there were, one, an imminent danger with no escape or chance to protect oneself, and two, it resulted in loss of contact with family or primary groups. And last, there is also the question of longer-term effects. What would happen over many years? One social psychologist suggests that it might help to unite the world. If the visitors from space prove to be an enemy, he suggests, then we would unite as one species to drive the invader away and then to live in peace thereafter.
We've so far talked of the past and the present, but what are the possibilities of the future? It seems almost certain that if other beings more advanced than ourselves do inhabit other sectors of the universe, then it's quite probable there will come that day, that moment in time, when official contact will be made. Let's look at an incident that might happen in the future, or perhaps could have happened already. The premise is that contact is made by extraterrestrial beings with representatives of the United States Air Force at Holloman Air Force Base in the deserts of New Mexico. The day is clear. It's about 5:32 a.m. at Holloman Air Force Base. Traffic light. One recon plane is on the field ready for takeoff when Sergeant Mann is given a report of an approaching unidentified craft.
Yeah, Bill, no, nothing on the log.
I'll repeat it again. Unidentified approaching objects on coordinate 49er, 34 degrees southwest, following Lincoln or
Can I go northeast down with the Army helicopter?
Probably a stray civilian, maybe. Keep me informed.
I see him over there. Check with Edwards. Make contact with him, Bill.
This is Hollywood Air Force Base Control Tower. Identify yourself. What's your tail number? You're encroaching on military airspace. Warning, identify yourself. You're in a restricted military air corridor.
Call the base commander.
Base commander's office, Sergeant Whitmore speaking. Yes? Yes, hold on. Colonel, for you.
This is Colonel Horner, yes? Yes, an unidentified vehicle. You warned the aircraft again?
142, turn left.
What's its shape? Check Edwards? Civilian patrol? Okay, all right. Sound a red alert.
Unidentified aircraft approaching.
Hey, Bill, give me a quick check with Wright-Patterson Intelligence. There may be an experimental craft from somewhere, I don't know, here. Alert the fire chief and security and safety.
Interceptors are dispatched to escort the unidentified crafts out of the area. During a routine photographic mission, a tech sergeant and staff sergeant of the base photographic team were aboard a helicopter at the time and run off several feet of film of the three objects, one of which breaks away and begins a descent. A second high-speed camera crew on the ground runs off approximately 600 feet. The cameras continue to roll as the extraordinary vehicle comes into view. It hovers, almost silently, about 10 feet off the ground for nearly a minute and yaws like a ship at anchor, then sets down on 3 extension pads. The commander and 2 officers, along with 2 base Air Force scientists, arrive and wait apprehensively. A panel slides open on the side of the craft. Stepping forward, 1, then 2, and a third, what appear to be men dressed in tight-fitting jumpsuits. Perhaps short by our standards, with an odd blue-gray complexion, eyes set far apart, a large pronounced nose. They wear a headpiece that resembles a rope-like design. The commander and the 2 scientists step forward to greet the visitors. Arrangements are made by some sort of communication, and the group quickly retires to an inner office in the King 1 area. Left behind stand a stunned group of military personnel. Who the visitors are, where they're from, and what they want is unknown. We now have a new challenge, perhaps the most monumental in recorded history. The opportunity to investigate a phenomenon that could change our destiny. Through the study and understanding of the UFO phenomena, we may discover a new energy force, or how to use it. Or it could lead to an understanding of our relationship to life throughout the universe. And if there are beings from distant advanced societies, we may be privileged to see a revelation, a look at ourselves 1,000 years in the future. And perhaps at this very moment, located in another galaxy, somewhere in infinite space, other beings raise similar questions and discuss the possibilities of life outside their planet and talk about Earth as part of their plans for the near future.